I suggested partner swapping, but he turned it into a trap that ended our marriage.
This is crazy. I asked my husband to try partner swapping for a night. His response, divorce? I'm in a mess right now. My stupidity has caused me to lose my home. How silly of me to suggest to my husband that we should try partner swapping. What was I even thinking in the first place? I honestly don't know what came over me. I know I went out of line, but is that enough reason for my husband to want to divorce me? My husband decided to divorce me because I suggested we spice up our marriage a little bit. He destroyed my life, took everything from me, and even went as far as marrying my best friend. I never would have in a million years thought that my whole life would change on that fateful night. Everything happened so fast, it still feels like a dream. My husband married my best friend because I suggested we spice up our marriage and try partner swapping for just one night. It's outrageous, right? Wait till you hear my story. My name is Bella and I'm 27 years old. My husband's name is Chris. He is 30 years old and he is an engineer. Chris and I had a blissful marriage until I ruined everything with my mouth. That was the beginning of my nightmares. Everything changed the moment I suggested to Chris we should try partner swapping. It all happened so fast that it felt so surreal. It still feels like I'm dreaming. I never knew Chris and I would ever get divorced when we walked down the aisle 3 years ago. I thought it was a forever thing. Chris divorced me because I asked we swap partners for just a night. He ruined my life because of that single statement. He took everything from me and sent me away. According to him, I belong to the streets, and I'm not worthy of being called his wife. I blame myself for how things escalated quickly, and I take full responsibility for everything. But I still wish Chris reacted differently on that fateful day. So it all happened on our 3rd wedding anniversary. Chris and I went out on a dinner date to celebrate our anniversary. It was a surprise date, by the way. I was angry that day thinking Chris had forgotten our anniversary, but I didn't know he had a surprise for me. On the morning of our wedding anniversary, Chris acted normal. He didn't even wish me a happy anniversary, so I thought he had forgotten our wedding anniversary was today. I was so mad at him for forgetting about our anniversary. I didn't know he was just acting up and that he had arranged a huge surprise for me. I cried that morning as Chris West heading to work without wishing me a happy anniversary. Silly me, I thought he forgot. I was gloomy all through the day and even refused to pick his call when he called to check up on me, so he sent me a text instead and asked me to be ready by 6 that we are going on a business dinner. I wasn't happy. I couldn't believe he had forgotten about our anniversary, and now he wants me to accompany him to a business dinner. Chris sent his driver to come pick me up. We arrived at the venue, and to my greatest surprise, all our family and friends were there. It was a huge surprise. I saw holding a banquet with a smile on his face. He gave me the banquet and wished me a happy anniversary. He said he knew I was mad at him because I thought he had forgotten about our anniversary. He apologized for not wishing a happy anniversary earlier. We hugged and reaffirmed our love for each other. The dinner was an intimate one. It was just our immediate family and a few of our close friends. Chris told me he had another surprise for me, guys. I was shocked when he handed me a car key. I couldn't believe my eyes. I was happy I didn't know when I started crying and ruined my makeup. It was tears of joy, guys. Everything was going so well until Chris and I sat down to have a conversation. He said we should suggest ways we can spice up our marriage. I suggested we should try partner swapping with our friends for just a night. That was it, guys. That was how the beautiful night turned into a night I will forever regret. Chris asked me to explain what I meant by partner swapping. I should have stopped there seeing how angry he was, but I didn't. I went further to explain. I told him we should pick one couple from our close friends, ask them if they're interested, and then we swapped partners. Chris lost it at that point. He flared up and started calling me all sorts of unpredictable names. All eyes were literally on us. I felt ashamed of myself that day. I wanted to disappear so bad because everyone was staring at us and whispering. He started shouting at me and calling me different sorts of names. He accused me of looking for ways to cheat on him. He called me a cheater and a liar. In a blink of an eye, everything escalated. He stood up and started throwing tantrums like a little baby that lost his candy. He went on to say he knew I never loved him and how I have been looking for an opportunity to cheat on him. He even went on to say that he suspects I have been cheating on him with his friends. I felt embarrassed. All our friends and family that were present at the party ran to our table to inquire about the problem. Chris didn't say a word, he just walked out of the hall. He left me seated there like a fool. I couldn't even say a word. I was confused. I didn't know how everything escalated quickly. I was too stunned to speak. Everyone was lost. They kept asking what happened and why Chris was mad. I couldn't even utter a word. I was perplexed. One of Chris's friends offered to drop me off after seeing the state I was in. I was stranded, so I obliged. All through the drive, I kept trying to figure out what had happened. A night that was supposed to mark a new beginning ended abruptly on a sad note. I was so lost in thought that I didn't know when we arrived home. I got inside and met a drunken Chris. I was surprised because Chris hardly drinks. He asked who dropped me off, and I told him it was Joe, his friend. He got even more angry. He started accusing me of having an affair with Joe and some of his other friends. I asked him to calm down and that the alcohol is making him hallucinate, but he refused. He continued calling me names, and when I saw he wasn't going to stop anytime soon, I left him there and went upstairs. He followed me upstairs and continued ranting, so I had to lock myself inside the bathroom to avoid any altercations. The following day, I thought Chris would come and apologize for how he behaved the previous night, and we would settle everything, but I was wrong. I slept late because I had to make Chris already deep asleep before coming out of the bathroom. I woke up late, so I didn't know when Chris left for work. I decided to make everything right again, so I prepared his favorite meal for lunch. I took it to his office because I knew he would be hungry as he didn't have breakfast before leaving for work. I wish I never went to his office that day. So I went to Chris's office with the lunch I prepared, hoping we could sort out our issues, but I was embarrassed instead. Chris sent me out of his office and warned me never to set my foot in his working place ever again. I felt embarrassed. People were watching. I didn't know Chris was this heartless. I never knew a day would come when Chris would look at me with so much hate in his eyes. I left the office with my head bowed in shame. Everyone looked at me with pity. I left the office for home and cried myself to sleep. I kept wishing I never made that suggestion. I regretted going for our anniversary dinner. I regretted everything. That was how my husband turned to a complete stranger. Later in the day, I was woken up by the sound of Chris's car. Then the unexpected happened. Chris and our lawyer walked in. My heart skipped when I saw them together. I was served divorce papers. I couldn't believe my eyes. How can Chris divorce me for such a trivial thing? I was even serious, to be honest. It was just an innocent suggestion. If I had known things would turn out this way, I would have come up with the idea in the first place. I was so devastated. I begged him for a second chance, but he refused to listen. All my pleas went on deaf ears. I refused to sign the divorce papers. I couldn't sign the divorce papers. I couldn't imagine my life without Chris. He is my best, the absolute love of my life. The thoughts of losing him made my heart skip. I tore the papers. I reminded Chris of the vow we took 3 years ago. He vowed to deal with me. He said all manner of things to me, but I didn't take any of that to heart. We had a heated argument that day, and he vowed to deal with me mercilessly. I thought it was just an empty threat, but I was wrong. Chris started throwing my things out, one after the other, from clothes to shoes. He threw everything out and asked me to leave his house. I was angry with him, but I couldn't bring myself to leave. I mean, how can I leave my matrimonial home just because of a little misunderstanding? I ignored Chris and continued with the rest of my day. Chris made the house a living hell for me. He was frustrated with every move. He made the house a living hell for me. He would come back every night drunk and make a scene. With time, his attitude would change, but it got even worse. Chris started bringing in different ladies every night, most of which were his colleagues. I got irritated by his attitude. How could he stop so low to that level? I got tired of his daily shenanigans. I decided to stay in a hotel for a few days so I could clear my head. I thought a little space would bring peace to our troubles, so I decided to give him space so he could reflect on his actions. But to my greatest surprise, Chris became more arrogant and stoned-hearted. He called me one day. I thought he had finally come back to his senses and wanted me back home. He asked for my whereabouts, and I told him. He came there and made a scene. He asked me to return the keys of the car he bought for me as a gift. He forcefully took the car keys from my hands and left. I couldn't believe my eyes. How could Chris be so unreasonable? At that moment, it dawned on me that Chris had made up his mind, and he would do everything to frustrate me to give in to his biddings. I called his parents to at least explain everything that was happening to them. but to my greatest surprise, Chris had fed them with lies about me. They told me they were aware of everything, how I slept around with Chris' friends and squandered his money. I was shocked to hear that. Everything Chris told them were lies. Worst of all was that they were not even ready to hear my own side of the story. I knew it was pointless proving anything to them because Chris had brainwashed them and they blindly believed him. They accused me of ruining their son's life and ended the call on me. I got tired of everything. I couldn't keep up anymore. But I decided to just try my luck one more time. I went to the house to see Chris. Maybe this time we would be able to have a conversation. We haven't sat down to have any conversation ever since that fateful night. I got to the house and got the biggest shock of my life. I saw Chris in bed with my best friend, Julia. It took all the strength in me for me not to faint that day. I was literally shaking. I tried, but I couldn't hold my tears. I asked Chris why he decided to hurt this much. He opened his stupid mouth to tell me I caused everything. He told me I was the one that suggested partner swapping and that he was just experimenting and doing what I said. He told me he was only following my command and that after giving it a lot of thought, he realized I was right and partner swapping is the best way to spice up our marriage. I couldn't take it anymore. Julia just sat there quietly watching the drama unfold. I felt betrayed by my husband and best friend. What hurts me the most is that I have been discussing my marriage crisis with Julia ever since this issue began. Julia is my childhood friend. I couldn't believe she would ever do something like this to me. I couldn't even confront Julia. She was just like a sister to me. How could she betray me like this? Didn't she know how much I loved Chris? The painful thing was the unremorseful look on her face. She didn't look like someone that repented what she had just done. She looked bothered and unconcerned. I stormed out of the room angrily. At that point, I already made up my mind to give Chris the divorce he wanted. I was shattered and lost. I almost went insane. I wasn't serious about the partner swapping crap. It was just a joke and mere suggestion. I don't know why Chris decided to take it seriously. I signed the divorce papers, and a few months later, Chris and I got divorced. Chris made sure I didn't get a penny. We signed a prenup before our wedding, so I didn't get a damn. He took everything from me. The house we bought together was in his name. He claimed ownership of the house and took it. Julia moved into the house with him and they started staying together. Later, he sold off the house. He didn't even need my permission or signature to do that because the house was in his name and he was in possession of all the house documents. Every investment we did together was in his name. I thought we would forever be together. I didn't know a day would come when we went our separate ways. If I could go back in time, I would have done things differently. Chris took all of our investment. He claimed everything. He didn't even leave one thing for me. He also took the cars he bought for me and sold them. Chris went as far as spending all the money we saved together. We always save a certain amount of money every month for our unborn kid's future. Chris was the signatory to the account because everyone knew I was a big spender. I spend my money on shoes and bags a lot, so we kept everything in Chris's account. Chris pulled everything out. When I asked him about the money, he told me there was no money and that he had spent every single token of the money. I couldn't even believe my ears. I think that was Chris's way of punishing me. He wants me to be stranded and alone. He claimed he spent the money on hiring lawyers for our divorce. Funny, right? Yes. I laughed when spilled the rubbish too. I laughed so much that it turned to cry. I didn't even know when I started crying. I don't know if I was crying for a divorcee or the fact that my savings and investments are all gone. I didn't want to drag anything with him. I was determined to survive at all costs. The divorce proceedings were mentally exhausting. It was even more exhausting seeing Julia accompanying Chris to the court during every hearing. Julia would always come to me after each hearing about how Chris was a good man to him. She was doing everything possible to get me to talk to her, but I refused. They were always trying to get my attention with their unnecessary PDA. The sight alone disgusted me. It was after the divorce that I knew why Chris flared up the way he did. His childhood friend told me everything. He told me how Chris had once lost his first love to partner swapping. His childhood love left him after sleeping with another person. The partner swapping went wrong and his manly ego was broken. So in a way, I awoken a childhood trauma in him. I guessed he was scared of losing me too. That's why he acted the way he did. He literally blew everything out of proportion. but deep down I know that wasn't the reason. If he ever wanted me in his life, he would have done things differently. But that wasn't a reason for him to divorce me and do what he did to me. He practically ruined my life. But after hearing of how he lost his first love, I felt sorry for him. But I still can't forgive him for everything he has done to me. The more I write about this, the angrier I become. I met Chris 5 years ago when he had nothing. I stuck with him because of my love for him. I helped him put his life together. When I met Chris, he owned a huge student loan and squatted with his friends. Everyone advised me to leave him alone, including my friend Julia, but I refused and stayed with him. How could he pay back my love and affection for him all these years with betrayal? It was obvious that I loved Chris more than he loved me. Everyone knew except me. I helped Chris clear out his student loans from the little money I earned. I guess I was blinded by love. I can't believe the same person I changed his life to a few years ago didn't hesitate to divorce me. It feels like a movie, I know, but it isn't. I wish I listened to people that advised me against him. Now he has practically ruined my life because of a single suggestion I made. Chris and Julia went around spreading false rumors about me, that I slept with his friends while he was away on a business trip. The news spread like wildfire, and soon people started gossiping about how unfaithful I was to my husband. It was only a few of our friends that cared to reach out to me to find out what really happened. 3 months after our divorce, Chris and Julia got married. The wedding was talk of the town. Apparently, Chris lavished all the money we saved together on the wedding. He bought a new house, and they moved in together to start a new life. I, on the other hand, became a shadow of myself. I didn't know where to start from or how to start. I didn't have a husband to lean on or a friend to confide in. Life didn't make sense to me anymore. The life I knew was taken away from me. I became mentally exhausted, so I became depressed. It felt like my life had ended. It was after the divorce that everything really dawned on me. The people I have built my life around for the past 5 years were no longer around. I felt alone, betrayed, and wounded. The more I decide to forget everything, the harder it becomes. Everything got so bad that I almost lost my job. It was at that point, the log on my face cleared. I decided to pick myself up and start all over again. I started attending therapy sessions. I didn't want to go to therapy in the first place, but I'm glad I did. That was one of the best decisions I have ever made. I started learning to let go of the good and bad memories I had with Chris. I learned how to forgive someone without the person asking not for their sake, but for my sake. Update. Hi guys, it's me again. I'm glad I took the bold step. I just had to go to therapy. I regained my confidence and started building my life all over again. I'm finally learning to smile again. I moved in with my sister because I became homeless after the divorce and I was penniless. You guys remembered Joe, right? Chris' friend that dropped me home after Chris left me that night at our anniversary dinner. Yes, Joe. He was a great support system all through my dark moments. He was always there for me. He became my backbone. He helped me snap out of depression fast. He was the one that registered me for the therapy session. He became a friend I could confide in. He listened to my vents without saying a word. There was an attraction between us, but I kept the friendship platonic. I didn't want a situation where Chris's accusations would turn out to be true. So I tried all my best to keep our relationship simple. Joe wasn't happy with my decision. According to him, I should move on and stop waiting for Chris. He told me dating him would be a way of getting back Chris for marrying my best friend Julia. But I gave it a second thought and declined. He got angry and left. I wanted to beg him to stay because I was alone and needed someone around. But I have learned from the past never to beg anyone to stay when they want to leave. Experience, they said, is the best teacher. I moved on with my life like nothing happened. As for Chris and Julia, they're still married and living happily together. They are even expecting a child together. I wish them nothing but the best. What is still a mystery to me today is how Julia and Chris got together. I think I would never know how it happened. That is one puzzle I'm still unable to solve till today. It still feels surreal that my best friend is married to ex-husband. Everything still feels like a dream. I can't believe Julia is married to the same man she advised me to leave 5 years ago. It's unbelievable. To be honest, they both hurt me, but I have decided to forgive them for my own sanity. I can't continue to hold grudges against people that betrayed me without considering my feelings. But one thing is certain. They never cared about me the way I cared about them. That is my story, guys. I hope we all learn from my story. Think before you talk. Don't run your mouth out of excitement. Before you talk, try and filter some things. Most importantly, not all friends should be trusted. Some should just be avoided by all means possible. One last thing. Don't love a man more than he loves you. The love should be on an equal level. Thanks and goodbye. And found out about my one-night stand and told me he never loved me anyway. I couldn't believe it. I still cannot fathom with the fact that he actually told me in the face that he never loved me. I mean, who does that? Why marry someone, stay with them for years, then at the end, you tell them that you never loved them? I felt like my ancestors and God had forsaken me, but who I blame for what happened to my marriage? I can't even put a blame or point a finger to someone because the blame is on me. The shame is on me. I am the one who went outside my marriage and destroyed it, knowing very well the consequences of my abomination. I knew what I was doing, and I knew the outcomes of it, but I continued with it anyway. You see, the dissatisfaction that we get from our partners after we both said "I do" is the one that drives us to find satisfaction somewhere else. My husband, or must I say my ex-husband, Liam, male 33, and I, female 28, met on one of the dating sites called Tinder. Well, I was bored, single, and needed someone to pass time with, so I decided to create an account on Tinder to find new friends and maybe a potential lover. So as I was scrolling, I saw a lot of handsome guys, but they were not what I had wanted. They didn't meet my expectations. So I continued scrolling up until I was a match with Liam. When I looked at his profile, I saw that he was the person that I would like to get to know and maybe become friends with. Who knows? So Liam texted me on Tinder. We started chatting. He was the kind of person that I would want to spend most of my time with. Either we become friends or friends with benefits or just official lovers. I can say he was my dream guy. 2 weeks later, we had thought that we had chatted enough on the phone, so we had to plan to meet up. Fortunately, he was not far from where I was. Well, we both lived in Texas, but in different cities. I lived in Arlington while he lived in Dallas, which was about 22 to 30 minutes drive. When he told me that he wants us to meet, I couldn't believe it. I was ecstatic. I just couldn't wait to see the stranger that made my heart dance for the first time. A week later, we decided to meet at one of the restaurants around here in Arlington called Bay 34 The Street Diner Restaurant. When we met, it was like we had known each other for years. He was everything I wanted and needed in a man and more. He made me so happy and felt beautiful. I can actually give him those points of knowing how to make a woman feel better about herself. He would compliment you even if you were in a crusty mood indoors. At first, I had thought he was making me a fool, but each and every day he wouldn't forget to compliment my beauty that boosted my self-esteem. 2 months later, we started dating and everything was a bliss. He still continued to be the person he was the first day we met, and I was falling harder for him every day. Liam was a very romantic guy. He knew how to spoil a woman and make her feel secure. He was too perfect to be true, but because I was blinded by my love for him, I didn't notice anything wrong with how he was. I just loved him for who he was. 3 months later, he proposed and we got married a month later. Everything was happening so fast. I was so sure that I was loved and secured in him. I trusted him with my heart. I loved him even when he was in a bad mood. I bared with him because I was so much in love with this man. But what did he do? He took my love for desperation and for granted. Liam was a soul to keep. Well, that's what I had thought. I thought we would be together till the end of time. Our first few years in our marriage were a dream. I mean, we were the couple that most others only fantasize about. I thought that was how we were going to be for the rest of our lives. We used to go out on dates on random days and visit different places. Liam had a construction company that only dealt with building malls, campuses, stadiums, etc. I think it's called civil construction if I'm not mistaken. He had a lot of free time in his life, and I enjoyed every moment that I would spend with him. My love for my husband kept increasing, not knowing that I was actually in love alone. We were actually using my love to make our relationship survive. As much as that was hurting me so much, and it still does hurt me because I had given the relationship and marriage my all. You know, Liam was a very handsome guy, and ladies loved him. I would sometimes get a glimpse of jealousy and insecurity whenever girls greet him and make him some signs that I didn't know about. My husband Liam was a womanizer, or a ladies' man. Well, that's how I had found him. I was glad that he came clean even before we started dating, that he loved ladies and ladies loved him, so I shouldn't get angry or jealous when we come across ladies that would randomly greet him. Before we started dating, Liam had about 2 or 3 girlfriends. That's what I had figured out when we were still in the friend zone. I wondered how he handles so many girlfriends while only one girl is a headache enough. I had seen that on my brother. When we started dating, he broke up with the ladies that he was dating. Well, that was what he told me, so I would be in a relationship with him. He told me that he saw a potential in me and he saw a wife, a person who can warm up his home and bed, a person who he wanted to build a family with. He had told me everything that my heart and ears wanted to hear and believe. But there was one thing that he had never said. The 3 magical words were the words that he had never uttered with his mouth directed to me. I didn't pay much attention to that. I was just clouded by the fact that he was always with me, spoiling me and making sure that I was secured. I didn't have issues when it came to getting his attention because he tried by all means to make time for me. I loved the way he was treating me like a queen, making sure that I had everything I needed, and I was satisfied. He made me feel like I belonged, you know. He knew how to make my gloomy day bright without even trying so hard. I remember years back when I was still in school, kids used to bully me to a point that I somehow lost my self-dignity and had a very low self-esteem. I hated how I was feeling because I had taken what other students or bullies were telling me or saying to me seriously. I had that mentality that maybe they were right. But Liam managed to bring all that back when he would randomly compliment my beauty. My husband and I had started with our family planning. We had gone to the doctor to check if we were both fertile. I won't lie and say Liam's intimate drive was on point 100 because it wasn't. Sometimes I would be dissatisfied by our intimate moments. You know when someone denies you your favorite sweet or chocolate, you get angry and irritated, right? That was how Liam was doing to me. He would sometimes deny me a chance to release and reach the climax also, and it was really irritating and annoying. Days turned to weeks and weeks turned to months. Liam and I were still at it, still loving each other, or let me say, still loving him. But he started changing. He became distant, coming home later than he usually did. Sometimes he would sleep out and not come back home at all. The first 2 weeks I had seen the changes, but I brushed it off because I had thought maybe he was busy at work since they had a very big project of building a football stadium. I was so proud, and I am still proud of him for all the achievements that he had. His behavior started off randomly, and I ignored everything because as a good wife that I was, I couldn't question my husband, especially when he was dealing with a stressful project. But the behavior kept continuing until it was a norm for him to either not come back home or come back late at night and way after dinner time. I tried addressing the issue because it was really affecting me emotionally, and even our intimate moments were no longer the same. Sure, he would deny me some cloud-9 feeling, but I still needed him to make love to me like he normally does. His behavior was even affecting our conceiving period because we were no longer intimate during my ovulation days, since he would be out somewhere, where Liam and only God knew. I called him on his phone and it didn't go through, so I decided to call the office number and I was told that he was not in, which confused me because he was supposed to be at work. So I just left him a text and asked him to be back home earlier. To my fortune, it looked like he had seen the text because he came back earlier than his usual time. So during dinner, I had decided to address the underlying issue that we were facing. Well, more like that I was facing because it only affected me. I told him my dislikes in our marriage and in our relationship. I told him about the changes that had taken place. One thing about Liam is that if you speak to him, he listens attentively without disturbing you. He waits for you to finish, then he replies to whatever that you had said. I told him everything that I was feeling, and even told him how much it was affecting our process of having a child. I know that he was always busy at work, but that didn't mean that he should forget about his wife and his duties as a husband. I mean, he was the one who came with the idea of us starting our mini family, so I was not expecting him to be the one to back down on our plan. He can't leave me hanging and make me a house furnisher. Instead of him to humble himself, he just said, "I hear you. Can you imagine?" I asked him to at least tell me what was going on because I didn't know nor understand what was really happening in our marriage and in our relationship. Liam told me that he would try and change the way he does things, but he doesn't promise that thing would go back to the way they were before. His words were not promising and kind of hurtful. But what did I expect from someone who never even once told me that he loved me? Time passed. I got tired of waiting for Liam to change and for things to go back to how they were before. I needed to be myself again, and maybe Liam would come back to his senses and come back home. I decided to just transform myself and go out on solo dates. I couldn't wait for Liam anymore. I knew that I had to stand up and stop being a house room divider and start living like a normal person. So I would go to different restaurants to have either solo lunch or breakfast. The outings that I did were refreshing and mind-relaxing. I knew that as much as Liam was absent and was no longer the husband that I loved. He had become a douchebag for no reason, and he was not even remorseful about it. His pride and ego was running through his veins, and it would sometimes make him look arrogant. One day I decided to just go out on a Friday night. The house was boring and gloomy without Liam, so I needed to get myself out and have fun for once. Liam and I had stopped going out to have fun when we were like 6 or 7 months since we got married. Liam started acting like those boring old husbands that want to control everything and everyone. I went to the nightclub. When I got there, it was actually an event type of thing, so it was packed. I went in and already I was feeling myself. I felt like the old Miranda. My name was back, and I was living the life that I had wanted in my own way. Since then, I knew that I was the chief executive officer, CEO of my life, and I should never wait for someone's validation to feel myself and do what makes me happy. I had forgotten about my marital problems, and Liam, I was just free. As I was still enjoying my night, I kept ordering drinks and enjoying the music that was playing. I was approached by a guy named Paul. He introduced himself as Paul McCoy, male, 29. This Paul guy was very handsome, though he was not handsome like my husband Liam, but he was handsome that I could give him. He asked if he could join me since he had also come alone. I agreed for him to join since I was starting to get bored, busy watching people drinking and dancing with their partners while mine was in a never-known place. Paul was such a gentleman and he was very funny. He made my night unforgettable. He made me think about Liam for some moments, and I was enjoying his company so much. I found out that he was a construction worker. Well, he was a surveyor, meaning he was looking after employees when his boss was not in. Mind you, that time I didn't know that he was actually Liam's employee. The drinks and conversation kept flowing between Paul and I. I drank until I got tipsy, and one thing I don't like about myself when I drink too much alcohol is that I would get a desire to have some intimacy. I don't know why that was happening to me. I would enjoy it at first because it would happen when I was with Liam, and that time it happened when I was with a total stranger. I tried holding and containing myself to a point that I would go to the restroom and help myself with my hand, but it didn't give me what I had wanted. So I went back to where I was sitting with Paul, and we continued talking. He was also tipsy, so I told him that I needed to be home. He asked why I was leaving because the night was still young. I told him that I had a husband waiting for me at home. He convinced me till I gave in and decided to stay. In my mind, I was like, enjoying myself for once wouldn't hurt nor hurt my marriage because my husband is the one who made me go out without him. Liam's behavior was really stressing me out to a point that I would sleep with a bottle of wine and some snacks when I was home. The way the house felt so empty and lonely, I was slowly falling into a depression state. My emotions were all over, and I didn't know what I should do or where I should go or who I should call and vent to. Paul was there, and as I was busy drinking and dancing, Paul came to join me on the dance floor, and we danced like we knew how to. Paul then told me that it was past midnight. We should head out since the club was also closing. He told me that his apartment was not far from the nightclub, so we should move our mini party to his apartment. Without even thinking, I bluntly agreed to go with him. When we got to his apartment, everything happened so fast. One minute we were talking and laughing, another thing I found myself venting on him. I had told the stranger about my marital problems and the issues that I was facing at home. As I was venting and crying, Paul was busy consoling me, and another thing led to another. I didn't mean it to happen. It was a moment of weakness. I know I shouldn't have gone with Paul to his apartment, but I did. I kissed Paul, and his lips were so soft. His touch was electrifying and magical. As we were kissing like that, we ended up getting it down on the couch. We made out on the couch. This Paul guy knew how to explore a woman's body. I felt something that I had never felt before. He made me feel like I was in space, dancing with the aliens. He took me from cloud 0 to cloud 9 so fast. I had made sure that he wore protection because I didn't want any unexpected pregnancies or diseases. I really enjoyed the intimate moment that I had with Paul. He made me feel some type of way that I had never felt before. Liam was making me feel good. He knew how to explore my body, but he failed to take me to cloud 9. I woke up the following morning with a very bad headache. I got the shock of my life when my mind came back, and the event that had taken place the previous night came like a flood. I regretted everything. I got so scared that I had slept with a stranger, and that same stranger left me in his supposed apartment. One thing I was grateful for was that he had left me a hangover remedy. He left a note saying that he was going to work. There was an important and urgent meeting. I didn't understand why he would tell me that, so I put the note aside and took the remedy. As much as it was bitter and bad, but it did do some work. After drinking it as fast as I could to numb the banging headache that I had, I decided to just rush home. I was glad that I didn't have the guy's number, so it was just a one-night stand. A mind-blowing one-night stand. When I thought about the previous night, I had regrets, but I was feeling sexually satisfied for once in a very long time. When I got home, I went to take a very long and soothing bath. As I was sitting on the basin, the events of the previous night were in my head, and it played like a broken record. I was busy smiling alone, while at the same time I thought about the consequences that would take place when Liam was to find out about the abomination that I had done. I regretted cheating on my husband and breaking my wedding vows that I had made in front of the Lord and our loved ones, but I didn't regret the intimate moment that I had with Paul. 1 week later, something I had never expected happened, and it destroyed a lot of things. Liam and I were on civil terms, but things were no longer the same, even though he tried coming home more often. So one sunny morning, he asked me to prepare some snacks for him as his colleagues or employees would be coming over since they had to go through the stadium project. The afternoon came and Liam came back with his employees. Well, they had arrived when I was in the kitchen preparing some refreshments for them. So when I took the refreshments and took them to the sitting room where they were sitting, discussing whatever they were discussing, I greeted the guest and I got the shock of my life. Paul was one of Liam's employees, but how did I miss it because Liam's construction company was the only one working on the stadium project? My heart started beating outside my ribcage. I was so scared, like I don't know what I was scared of, but I was extremely scared of the unknown. I decided to leave them and went to the kitchen to start with dinner preparations. As I was busy gathering the ingredients, Paul came in returning the glasses and everything that they were using. I asked Paul what he was doing in my house, which was a very dumb question to ask a person. The guy had the nerve to tell me that he enjoyed what we had done that night. He told me that he wished he could take back that day. I then told him that he should leave me alone, and what had happened between us that Friday night was a mistake that I regret. So I asked him to keep his voice down because I didn't want Liam to hear what we were talking about. Not knowing that it was actually too late, and Liam had already heard what Paul and I were talking about. Later that day, Liam asked to speak with me, so I gave him a go-ahead. He then told me that he had heard my conversation with Paul and asked why I had slept with him. I didn't know what to say, so I just denied what he was saying. Then he showed me the video where I was in Paul's apartment. I didn't know what to do, so I started defending myself and told him that he was the one who pushed me into another man's arms because of his behavior. We argued a lot to a point that he actually confessed that he had never loved me. I couldn't believe his words. They made my mouth dry with no words to utter. He repeated that he never loved me and he married me because he was lonely, not because he loved me. I was so shattered, my heart was torn apart. My world came crumbling down. I felt so lost and alone. His words were ringing in my ears. Mind you, that time I wanted to share the news of my pregnancy to him, but since things had taken another rough turn, I found myself at the end of a dangerous road. I wished I had done things differently, but it was too late to rectify my wrongs, and I was the one to be blamed for that. I didn't even bother trying to get any psychic help. I decided to grieve for my marriage. Till today, I don't know what to do and how to heal so that I would be able to move on. I'm still shuttered. Please help me, Redditors. What do I do in this situation? How do I move on from this? I feel lost and broken without Liam, and another thing, I still love him. Is that even normal?